Well, hello everybody. It's day 24 for me on the treadmill. Slept pretty well. Getting a pretty decent start at 7:30-ish, 7:27 to be exact. I went to bed at 8 p.m. yesterday because finally the migraine had gone away at the end of the day. Let's put it this way. By 8 p.m., my headache level was around a 1, and so I decided not to take any more Excedrin and went to bed thinking, well, if it wakes me up in the middle of the night, I'll take some. And I did wake up in the middle of the night like I always do, but the headache still wasn't there, so I didn't take any, and it's not there now. So yay for me. Yesterday, as you know, I did have the migraine and I did walk on the treadmill, but I thought I just wanted to reinforce, since not every person listens to every recording, wanted to reinforce rule number 1 with exercise is no injuries. So if you have a headache, if you feel sick, if you're, feeling like you are at risk of injuring yourself because of how you feel one day, skip it. Do not exercise. Because if you injure yourself, you could be out for a week, 2 weeks, a month, more than a month, and then you've lost all this progress and it feels terrible. And then usually, most of us, including me, if you feel terrible mentally, then that delays you getting back to it even more because you're beating yourself up. So my whole rule for exercise is rule number 1. There's a lot of rules, but rule number 1, no injuries. So if you need to skip a day, skip a day. Need to skip 2 days, skip 2 days. Just be conscious of not letting yourself off the hook when you don't emotionally feel like it. Obviously, if you are in emotional devastation, and that could lead to injury because you really are so devastated for some reason that you might not be aware and could misplace your foot if you're on a treadmill, or walk out in front of traffic if you are walking outside, whatever you're doing, skip that day too. Obviously, all of us at some point face situations in our lives that are emotionally upsetting enough that those things could happen. So just be smart about it. Don't be so diligent that you end up making poor decisions, because our whole goal here is to improve and get better. And to do that, sometimes we need to make choices that will help us avoid injury. So I just wanted to make sure I reiterated that on this recording. But yesterday for me, my head did hurt, but I didn't feel so dizzy that I didn't think that I could walk on the treadmill without falling down. So that's what I did, and it worked out fine. Migraine's gone. Still don't know if it was caused by something environmental or just, the thing is, in the old days, when I say the old days, when I was younger, before perimenopause or menopause or whatever I'm in now, I got my headaches my migraines at an exact schedule, basically. I knew what day they would hit, and I knew how long they would last, and I knew what they would act like, how much it would hurt, when it would stop hurting, when it would come back, and then when it would leave again. And so that has all been thrown up in the air as I've been in perimenopause, menopause, because hormones are everywhere, all over the place. And mine is definitely, there is some allergy relation, because I definitely feel it in my nasal passages. I feel swelling, also. So I certainly know that there is something there, but I have never investigated it enough, and I look back and wish I had. But, there's a lot of things that take our time and energy in this life, and obviously other things took mine. I know what they are, but I'm not going to get into all of those right now. Just want to say that perimenopause and menopause can just shake things up and make them all different than they were before, as many of you know, and that's why you're here. So as I mentioned, today is day 24 for me. I haven't had a break. I haven't missed a day. like I said, it wouldn't really matter if I did, because even, let's say I missed a day in the middle of that, well, I have walked for an hour 23 more days than I would have before I started this whole thing. So it's just a matter of perspective. If you beat yourself up over missing one day, or if you applaud yourself for getting those other 23 days in. So I'd encourage you to be the person that applauds yourself, because I tell you, man, I'm an optimist, and I generally, if I'm being, fully conscious, of course, there are times when I have judgmental thoughts, but in general, I'm not trying to tear people down. And it seems that these days, and probably was also prior to this, but it just is so exaggerated by being on social media. But it seems like there's so many people that just want to tear others down. And that is not me. And I don't really fare well in those situations, because I can't understand. I mean, I do understand what they're getting out of it. There's some sort of juice that they get out of it. I don't think judgmental people are happy, but that still doesn't negate how terrible it makes me feel to be misunderstood or judged. And I certainly don't think that you can protect yourself against that, when you're online, because you're dealing with people who don't really know you. I don't know how I got into this subject, because I seem to have many tangents when I talk. Even in real life, when I'm just chatting with my daughter, we're all over the place, but somehow we make it back to the middle on most topics. The whole point being, if you, and I don't think this was my point, I don't really know what my point was, but this is the point I'm going to make out of it. If you are similarly disheartened by what you experience on social media, I would encourage you to block people, take a break from it, surround yourself by people who are believers, who are encouragers, especially if you're on this journey with me and you're trying to make improvements in your life. Maybe that's one of them. I know that for me, mental and psychological and emotional things can really wear on my mental state and my physical energy. They can really drag me down. So if that's you also, maybe one of the changes that you make has to do with changing who and what you let enter your life. So that's about that. My son is keeping up with his 1 hour a day of standing at his desk, and he's feeling really good about it, actually. I think he's in a transition right now, and I think when you're in a time of life, or not a time of life like teenagehood, but just like a phase in your own life where you don't have a lot of structure, or a schedule to go by, it feels really good to have something that you're doing every day or every other day or every week, something that you're doing that's sort of a check mark of something that you've accomplished. It makes you feel better to feel like you've accomplished something, and that's what I really believe in, is even if you don't have a schedule that says, okay, from 6 to 7 I do this, from 7 to 7:30 I do that. I used to live by that, but I think the sleep thing and the body pain thing really makes that impossible now. I don't have a ton of body pain now, but I'm just saying that when those things happen, and for me the sleep thing is so irregular that it's detrimental for me to stick with a schedule that is strictly based on time. But that's a schedule. You can still have a structure, which is what I'm living by now, which says, hey, when I get up, which I know is going to be roughly in this time frame, the first thing I'm going to do is come downstairs and get my iced coffee. The next thing I'm going to do is go to my treadmill, set up my desk, start walking and start talking to you. So there's a structure to my day of what I'm going to do, roughly in what order I After I'm on the treadmill, I set out a chunk of time before I start working on, right now, I'm working most days, but before I start working, I will, between the treadmill and work, I'll have a chunk of time that's dedicated to household stuff, personal stuff, whether that's washing up some dishes, from the previous night, or doing some meal prep, or throwing in a load of laundry, whatever it is, I'll work that in. I think in the perfect world, I would have my weekends totally free for personal to-dos, so I wouldn't be doing any meal prep in the morning, and I wouldn't be doing any laundry in the morning or in the afternoon. But the way things are right now, that's the way it's structured, and that's fine, and you can make a structure and you can change it along the way to what suits what you really need. And I would encourage you, if you don't have a structure, to do that. Like I said, you don't have to have a schedule. A schedule many times makes people feel blocked in. And I know for me, if I've ever tried to implement a schedule, meaning differentiating a schedule from a structure. So a structure says first I do this, then I do that. Schedule says at 6 I do this, at 7 I do that. So when I've tried to implement a schedule in recent times, and especially when I needed to drop off my daughter at school, which has a specific time that I would do that, I would try to do a schedule. But whenever I've had a schedule, it's getting thrown off almost every day. Not the dropping of her at school, but at some point during the day, it's getting thrown off. And then I feel bad, and then I start having to reassess, okay, well, now what do I need to do? Now do I need to keep doing that thing that's already supposed to have been completed, or do I need to jump to the next thing that I still really need to do? And as you know, I've been for 6 years now in a situation where there's too much. I would almost want to say triple the amount of things that I'm capable of doing, that I'm supposed to be doing, and they're all important. None of them can be dropped. They're not leisure, they're not optional. So essentially it's just putting out fires. And if something hasn't caught on fire, it is running over to pour a glass of water on that thing to make sure it doesn't catch on fire by the time I can get back to it. And I'm sure there are people listening right now who have a similar situation, even if the circumstances that have led to that are different. Even if you're a person who has no kids, is not a caregiver for someone else, and you are working a full-time job, so everything's buttoned up, and then you develop an autoimmune disorder, and you can physically only work for half of the time. Okay, now you've got half the time at work, and then half the other time that you're physically feeling bad, and probably during that time at work you're also feeling bad, but just pushing yourself through. And then you're exhausted once you get home from that. You've still got to keep up your household. You're probably having to take partial pay, because disability leave only lasts for so long, or paid disability leave, and that's probably not offered by every employer. And so people are in an accident, a car accident. Everything's going lovely one day, and then you're in a crash, and then your life's turned upside down, and all the parts of your life and what was working before are different. So I know I'm not the only person who's facing challenges like this. And so if you're in a situation like that right now, know that you're not alone. And if you're coming out of a situation like that right now, I would recommend establishing a structure and keeping it loose, being loose with yourself in regard to, hey, this is, my first draft of a structure, and I'm going to try this. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to change it. And if the next change doesn't work, I'm going to tweak it. And it's a process, right? And you're just going to keep making it better and better as you go along, and learning from the mistakes and what doesn't work. But it at least gives you something that keeps each day from feeling like it's running into the next, and you're always behind, and you're never getting things done that you wanted to get done, and you're never making progress on things that you either want to make progress on or need to make progress on. So I really value structure, and I hope that if some of you have things that are going by the wayside that are not getting done, whether it's a lifestyle change or whether it's something different in your life that is emotionally, holding you back, because I really do believe in an emotional and a mental drag that's created by undone things in our lives. It's as if they're in our brain going, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, all day long, while we're also, living the rest of our lives. So there's no free pass from those undone things. So I really advocate the use of structure, and I advocate being nice to yourself in the process of figuring it all out. So that's today. My body feels good. Day 24 on the treadmill, 16 minutes in. Yesterday I said I didn't think I'd get bored. I mean, sometimes during the day I think, gosh, I don't feel like doing that tomorrow, so we'll see how it goes. I'm doing the same thing I just said to you. I'm figuring it out and knowing that it's going to evolve and change, and probably anything that I proclaim, I'll never, get tired of this. This is easy. Then a week from now I'll be going, okay, I'm totally bored of this. I need to do something else. I don't want to do a, higher rate of perceived exertion activity because I just don't have it in me, either physically or mentally, because this 2.5 miles per hour walking for an hour is not conditioning me to start jogging. I'm going to need to build from this if I wanted to start jogging. And right now, I just mentally, I'm just not even up for that. And I used to look forward to running. I'm not one of these long distance people who are like, oh, I run for 6 miles a day and I feel great. No. I loved the endorphin hit that I would get from running 30 minutes on a treadmill, basically. And it does. It gave me a high for sure. And I do remember that. But I'm not sure if I'm going to have it in me mentally to even do that again. Right now, I'm leaning towards low impact, workouts, both cardio and strength training. There are people at my gym who love to do their plyometrics, which, is a movement that requires jumping, having both feet off the ground at the same time. There are people that have those big boxes that they jump from the ground, up to the box. And there's so many trainers at the gym that I see working with all these people. There's people pushing this thing called the sled, which is just this really heavy looking, I've never done it, but heavy looking thing on wheels, but it's got a lot of weight and resistance to it. So your job is to push it down the aisle and then to turn around and push it back. People, this is not at my gym, but you see I see in online articles or videos where people are, flipping those gigantic truck tires. I'm sort of in a limbo stage between that used to be something that I might say, hey, I want to do that. I want to try to do that. And then now where I'm like, I don't know, low impact. So I'm sort of thinking that I might be transitioning to just low impact cardio, low impact strength training. You can get in lovely shape doing both. So you don't need to kill yourself to accomplish leanness. You don't need to kill yourself to accomplish, being really strong, being flexible, having good balance, being agile, being in good cardiovascular shape. You just don't need to flip tires and push sleds. So we all need to find the thing really that's most going to motivate us for consistent activity. So maybe that's dancing. I saw this ad on Facebook the other day for Bollywood dance workouts. And as I've mentioned, I've never worked out at home. I've owned so many things like Tai Bo. I can't even remember the guy's name that did Tai Bo, but VCR tapes of Tai Bo and yoga and CDs of yoga that came with the little pamphlet inserts that would show you the poses. And I had a burn of P90X, which is this really hard workout that before everything happened with my mother, so back in 1932, no, back in 2010, I was all about trying out P90X. So and granted, they say that women are in their prime, in their late 30s. I was around, what did I just say, 2010. So I was, let's do the math. I was born in 68, so 78, 88, 98, 2008, so 42. Does that make sense? I guess so. So I still had it in me at that time to be like, okay, maybe I want to take this on. So women are in their prime, probably something to do with testosterone. We probably have more testosterone at that time. I think also probably you increase or change your hormones when you're working out. And I had a lot of lean muscle mass at that point and low fat. So I don't know what it was. I had it in me that I was going to do that. I never did because I'm not motivated to work out at home. I still went to the gym at that point, but, I still own, my whole point is I still own these things, except for the Tai Bo. I got rid of VCR tapes. Let's put it that way. VHS tapes. There you go. I couldn't remember that earlier. I did get rid of those. So anything I've ever owned that was supposed to get me to work out at home, I haven't. But hey, this might be the time. I don't know. I'm very much on the fence about whether I'm going to go back to the gym or not. I think my daughter really wants to. So I might end up doing that for her. And then just see how I feel about it. She doesn't drive yet, so I would have to be the one taking her. And it seems like a waste of time to drive her there and wait for an hour, or drive her there and go back home and then go back and get her, So I might end up trying it back out for that reason. But like the rest of you, my life is going to evolve and I'm going to figure it out along the way. So it's a matter of being at peace with that. I would love to have more control over my schedule and my life. But that is not where I'm at now. So now I am focusing on what I can control, which is the structure to say I get up, I get my iced coffee, I come to the treadmill, I do some stuff around my house, I start to work in my business. That's the structure we have now. So that's what I'm going to stick with until I can't do that one anymore for some reason. And at least I do look back every day and go, like yesterday with a migraine, I took medicine for it all day. It never really helped. As I mentioned, I really probably should get prescription medication. So it never really helped. So I didn't have to lay down, but I also got nothing accomplished. I mean, when I looked back on my day at the end, I was like, nope, I accomplished zero. I mean, I ate food. I made food for my kids. I washed dishes, just the normal stuff of life. But I didn't accomplish anything besides my 1 hour on the treadmill. And that made me feel good. I didn't feel good that I hadn't accomplished anything else, but it did make me feel good that I had at least accomplished my hour on the treadmill. And I went to bed at 8, not because I was tired, but because I was sort of just exhausted from living the day. I mean, my head finally had stopped hurting for the most part, around 7. And I did take a short walk with my son. We took about a 20-minute walk just to get outside and move around. And Lost my train of thought there. I'm so sorry. So anyway, I did do that, but at 8, I went to bed, mainly because I was just tired of living that particular day. And I say I wasn't tired, and I wasn't. That wasn't motivating me to go to bed. But once I got there, I listened to a podcast for a little bit and then went to sleep. And, got a pretty normal night's sleep. No headache, 6-hour chunk, 2-hour chunk, roughly. I think the last chunk was 2 sets of 1 hour, but whatever the case, enough that I was able to get up, feel good. Now I'm here with you, and I'm wishing you a good day, and I'm wishing you to look back on this day and feel proud of yourself if, like me, the only thing you got done was the thing you committed to getting done in the morning for your lifestyle improvement, and you got that done. Or maybe yours isn't the morning. A lot of people have their energy later in the day. Whatever the case, if you are able to accomplish at least that thing, you at least can look back and say, yay for me. Or some of you might be on the top side of the roller coaster ride. You might be, at the peak, having accomplished a ton and feeling proud of yourself, and have a lot of days, even more days than me, under your belt of making these lifestyle changes. And you too should celebrate yourself, pat yourself on the back, look back on your day and think, I did that, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. So until tomorrow, hope you have a good one, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.